Some huge news has broken with regards to Netflix's upcoming Damsel, with the project no doubt being elevated by the fact that Stranger Things star Millie Bobby Brown is set to play the lead role in the movie. Though that's the real headline, there's plenty of other pieces of information that provide insight into the whole project. So let's get into it, starting with a recap of what exactly Damsel is. For the uninitiated, what is Damsel? Damsel is an upcoming fantasy movie being produced for Netflix, telling the story of Princess Elodie in a fantastical, no doubt medieval-inspired world. Elodie, bless her, is ecstatic to be betrothed to the dashing Prince Henry, already envisioning the fairy tale happy ending of her dreams. Unfortunately for Elodie, Damsel isn't set to be a sweet tale about a young woman simply getting married. We're not sure that'd perform very well. As it turns out, the princess is actually being sacrificed to a dragon, and the ruse of her impending marriage is simply a story to lure her into the trap. Little else is known about the movie plot-wise, but the popular conception at the moment is that the movie will provide a deconstruction of the famous damsel in distress trope. Elodie will not be locked away in a castle waiting for someone to come and slay the dragon. No, she will control her own destiny and have to get her hands dirty by fighting for her own survival. The synopsis certainly suggests that there will be a coming-of-age theme to this all, as Elodie realizes that her dreams of being hitched to a dreamy prince aren't all they're cracked up to be. No doubt there will also be some commentary on the role of women in these stories, as so often these fantasy tales are set in socially conservative societies where gender roles are strongly enforced. Who wrote it? Finding cast information, or any information really, about the movie is quite difficult at the moment because the project is clearly still in the early phases of pre-production. There's been no official cast release besides the confirmation of the leading lady. We do, however, know who some of the staff behind the camera will be, and more often than not, those roles can be just as, if not more, important than the actors reading the lines. First and foremost, the writer of the project has a tremendous amount of influence, as they are scripting what the characters say and will be tasked with forming the actual story itself. So who's writing Damsel? Dan Mazzo. If you just raised your eyebrow in confusion, that's okay. Nobody really knows who Mazzo is. You're not just desperately out of the loop. An American screenwriter who studied the craft of script writing as well as physics, apparently, at UCLA. Damsel is probably the biggest project of Mazzo's career, though he does have a few credits before it. He spent most of his early days adapting various works, most notable being an adaptation of Johnny Quest that ended up on the Blacklist, which is essentially a list of the best scripts that haven't been made into movies. This achievement landed Mazzo onto Variety magazine's 10 Writers to Watch in 2008, though when he finally got a film made, it was the critically panned Wrath of the Titans in 2012, which was criticized, lacking a comprehensible story, among many other faults. Still, with his unproduced scripts held in relatively high regard, it's impossible to know what exactly to expect from Mazzo. It can certainly be argued that this project could make or break his career, so let's hope he knocks it out of the park. Who's directing it? Though he's not spectacularly proven, we can be sure that Dan Mazzo will be putting his all into writing the script for Damsel, given how huge of an opportunity it is for him to advance his career. But who will be tasked with taking that script and actually turning it into a proper film? That duty lies with Spanish director Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, who burst onto the scene when he made his directorial debut with the 1996 short film Espesados, or as it's known in the US, Linked. The film was a huge success and transformed Fresnadillo overnight from unknown to rising star in his native Spain, with his film even being nominated for an Academy Award. His first feature film was also a pretty great success, as 2002's Intacto received critical acclaim and 2 Goya Awards, as well as 6 further nominations. He then directed one more major project in the shape of 2006's 28 Weeks Later, but since then, things have gone relatively quiet, with him being rumored to be involved with various productions over the last 15 years, but none coming to fruition. He certainly isn't as unproven as Mazzo, but given how long it has been since his last major project, it will be interesting to see how he fares with directing Damsel, especially as he appears to have no real experience working on the fantasy genre. The majority of his past work consists of black comedy and thriller stories, though it's unknown if those elements will make it into Damsel. These are all important pieces of news, of course, but one of the major topics that gets people excited for an upcoming film or TV series is undoubtedly the cast, which makes sense. These are the people we're going to be seeing on screen, and though we're not too clued up on Damsel's cast yet, we do know who will be in the starring role, so let's get into that. Millie Bobby Brown to star. Oh boy, Millie Bobby Brown is a busy 17-year-old. It really makes you wonder what exactly you were doing with your teenage years. Having exploded in popularity thanks to her role as Eleven in Stranger Things, which, by the way, earned her nominations for Emmy Awards, making her one of the youngest nominees in the ceremony's history. She then went on to star in her first Netflix movie, playing the titular character in Enola Holmes. The movie was a huge success as it pulled in the biggest single-week viewing figure for a streaming service since Nielsen Ratings began tracking streaming numbers. She, of course, will be hoping to further solidify herself as a leading actress with Damsel, though it's worth noting that she has plenty of other roles already set up, including reprising Eleven for the next season of Stranger Things, and once again leading the way for Enola Holmes 2. On top of her acting duties, Brown will also be acting as an executive producer for Damsel, a sign of her growing influence and star power for sure. She has experience fighting against terrifying monsters, so we have no doubt that her performance of Princess Elodie will involve battling the dragon she is supposed to be sacrificed to. When will Damsel be out? Unfortunately, there isn't a great deal of information with regards to when Damsel will finally hit Netflix, which you could probably see coming. I mean, there hasn't even been a cast announcement yet. Obviously, there's no trailer either, so we'd suggest that the absolute earliest to expect the film could be late 2022, if not early 2023. According to Production Weekly, the film is set to enter production in the first quarter of 2022, so depending on how early within the first quarter we're talking, there's a chance it comes out next year, but there's no way to know for certain. It should also be kept in mind that Millie Bobby Brown is spectacularly busy, and so her schedule could be a reason that the production of the movie takes a tad longer. As with such a critical role in the film's cast, you'd expect she will be needed for most scenes. Casting director. Another notable piece of news that can perhaps help in giving us an idea of what sort of actors will make up the Damsel cast is that casting director for this movie will be Fiona Ware, who has a wealth of experience. She's arguably the most qualified person in the entire production. She casted for the Harry Potter films, as well as Love Actually, The Girl in the Cafe, which bagged her an Academy Award nomination for Outstanding Casting, and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's possible that Weir is the one that brought Brown onto the project, though equally possible that Brown was always going to be attached to the film regardless. Either way, Weir represents an excellent casting director, and at the very least guarantees that Damsel should be blessed with a talented cast of actors, whether they're unknowns or more established stars, as Weir has demonstrated an ability to appropriately select either. What can we expect from Damsel? As has been discussed, the overwhelming theory is that Damsel will provide a fresh twist on the tiring damsel in distress trope by having Princess Elodie faced with the challenge of saving herself from the horrific situation she finds herself in during the movie. Given who Netflix has selected as their director, there's a pretty good chance that, as well as the fantasy elements, dragons and all that, the film will have elements of a thriller, which would suit Bobby Brown down to the ground, given her work on Stranger Things. Given director Fresnadillo's streak for black comedy, we may also get to see some of that creep into the film, especially as the plot of the movie seems to be designed to differ from the norm of fantasy fairy tale stories. We might see some fun being poked at the damsel in distress trope itself. And that's everything. Are you excited for Damsel? Feel free to let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments. And until next time.